Alright, we just saw some of the finished compositional paintings. We're working in still life. We're having a great time. We're understanding that when we work with still life, we're actually practicing our fundamental skills with drawing and painting. So sit back, relax. For the next hour or so, we're going to actually really have a great time going forward here. What I'll do is I'll take each one of these items, whether it's we have a beautiful wood carving shorebird, we have some apples and an onion, a lemon, a pear, we have some watercolor tube paints, we have some flowers, we have a cappuccino cup and a paintbrush and a pepper. So we have all kinds of fun things we're going to just kind of draw and paint and just having a great time doing it. And it's going to build our skills. So that's what we want to do. And we don't want to take this too seriously in a sense, because this is the fun part. You're just doing small compositions, getting used to the watercolor medium, getting used to drawing. And then in your own personal time too, you can take a pen, just a normal office pen, and draw some of these items just on your own in a sketchbook. And then when you come here and we're going to do this work here together, when we're using watercolor paper, maybe a pencil, well then you're going to be doing another bit of work with, pencil and watercolor. And then again, your own free time, grab a pen anytime, you can. You have a little sketchbook with you, you keep with you wherever you go, and you just get 5 minutes in here, 5 minutes there. If you're just working, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day on some pen sketches in a sketchbook, or even just some paper, even if you have some, printer paper, office paper, maybe a little notepad or something like that. You do a little bit of you drawing and sketching with these type of items on a daily basis. You can't imagine how much progress you're going to make. So let's have a fun time together. Again, you just saw in the beginning of the video here some of the paintings quite a few of the paintings that we're going to do, small compositions. Let's get started. I'll just move this out of the way and we'll start setting everything up. So the first thing I will set up is we'll start with our apple. So I'm going to have an apple. We'll start with that, and I'll just move this out of the way. But let's move this out of the way here. And we'll start out with our apple. And I'll take some double stick tape and just put it up over here so we have it, as a guide for our drawing and our painting. So let me get some double stick tape. Give me 1 second and we'll get this set up and we'll start our first composition. Alright, you just saw the very first part of the video. We're also going to just show you quick here before we get started some of the compositions we did in this video. I hope you really enjoy it. So we started out, of course, with a red apple, some flowers, a cappuccino cup, a pepper, and then we worked on into a shorebird and some paints, tube paints here, and then we have a paintbrush and a lemon. So we created all these compositions. We're calling these still life compositions, and of course we taped everything really nicely, so we're going to show you how that works, and we'll even take these right off now so you can kind of see how good these compositions look when you tape everything off. I always encourage everybody, please tape off your work. Once you get done, it will look like really nicely finished artwork in and of itself, and that's what I'm kind of aiming for everyone, is to be able to finish some compositions like this, peel off the tape, and you have something you can actually tack up on the wall, look at it, contemplate it, see what you like. Maybe there's a few that come out really good, there's a few that aren't that great, no problem. I kind of always look at it the same way as you do. As artists, we look at our work and we just, sometimes we say, wow, that one came out really good, or that painting, oh, it just didn't come out that great. And then we look at them and then we kind of study them a little bit. So that's a good part about watercolor. You take your paintings, if you think they look good, fantastic, you're excited. If it doesn't come out good, no problem. You look at it, you kind of maybe see where you could improve upon something, or maybe where something went wrong, you kind of evaluate it, and then you move on. You always are taking your paintings, setting them aside, and starting new ones. You don't ever want to get hung up on one painting. Just make lots of paintings, and that's what I always kind of mention on my video often is, if something doesn't come out good, no problem. You just take that painting, you flip it over, you paint on the other side of the paper, or you just take it and you put it to the side and you start a new painting. You don't have to worry and stress over something, because watercolor is not easy. Everyone kind of, when you get into watercolor, you're always kind of, it's a learned thing. You'll kind of know that you see when you're working with it that it doesn't always turn out the way you want to. Something might happen, and it can ruin a painting really quickly. So you might have a painting done like halfway through or 3/4 of the way through your painting, and all of a sudden something goes wrong. That can ruin the whole painting. So you spent like a lot of time on just one painting. So that's where you just say, no problem, take the painting, set it aside, start another one. So that's what we're doing here. We start a new painting. We just keep going, working on one after the next of our compositions, getting used to all the different subject matter that we might encounter when we're trying to create wonderful paintings. Okay, so we're going to get started now. We have, again, these 8 compositions you'll do, and we'll have a ton of fun, and we'll explain everything in detail, and we'll get started. All right, so I got my apple here set with some double stick, actually it was just some tape here. I used I just took some of the tape I have here, the frog tape, and I just take my tape and I tear off a piece of tape here like so, and this is giving me a little bit of a problem here. Let's see what I have. So I take a piece of frog tape and I just roll it up like that, and that turns into some double stick tape, and then I just put it down on the paper and then set my apple on top of that. So that's all that is. And this way we can kind of see it as we work. And let's get started with this apple. Okay, so first thing I'll do is I'll want to fill up this picture space here. And we actually have, I'm not sure if you can see this, I have tape here. So let me just do a little bit of I'll just take my pencil and go around the rectangle that we're working with in here. Like that. Okay, so that's our rectangle we're working within, and this is our apple. And we notice there's some light on that apple from my lighting above. So I have some lighting that's up some fluorescent lighting that comes down onto my table here that we're working in the studio. I have a camera, of course my video camera is right up above me, straight up overhead. And I have some lighting up above here, some fluorescent lights. And that'll give us some light. You can see some highlights on the apple there a little bit. We'll put those in. So I'm just going to start my apple, I would say a little bit lower in this rectangle here. So if you can see my rectangle here, I'd like to start the apple a little bit lower in the rectangle here, just so it feels like it's kind of sitting, down in the picture here on this table that we're on. It's actually some watercolor paper, but we'll pretend it's a table. And then we'll just take our apple shape and I'll just look at it, and I'll carefully look at the shape of the apple like this. And I'm just slowly looking at it and carefully doing that. Okay, maybe my pencil did a little bit of a wavy line there that I wasn't really too happy with. So I take a little bit of my kneaded eraser, and I have a Statler pencil here. This is a B pencil, which is kind of a soft lead pencil. Incidentally, all my art supplies are down below in the description box below. So if you ever need to check on some of the art supplies I'm using, I always say anything I put in my description box below is art supplies that I can say work fantastic and have worked for me for the last 10-15 years in watercolor, that I've been working in watercolor and as professionally. So I can just tell you I'm not going to put anything I have not worked with for a long time and can say that those art supplies will not perform really well for you. So I'm happy to say that. So wonderful. We have our apple shape there. Maybe we'll just say to ourselves, let's make a little bit of just make a little note on your apple with a very light pencil line. Only you will see that. So you probably can't see that from here. But I just put a little small kind of like square, and that's going to be the light. You can see that bit of light kind of bouncing off the apple. It's like a strong highlight. We'll leave that white paper for our apple. Now, the next thing we're going to do is let's get a brush we're comfortable with, the size of the brush. We don't want something, we're doing a kind of a smaller composition here, so we wouldn't want to get a large brush like this and try to paint this apple with this massive, brush. We're going to kind of use the brush that's fits the painting. So this looks a little better, right? This is maybe a better brush. This is a number 6, and it's a Da Vinci Maestro number 6 Kolinsky Sable Hairs. I will have a water container next to me on the right hand side. I will empty the water and put fresh clean water in, so I always want to have some fresh clean water. So I hope you'll always change your water frequently. I think it does help a lot to get some really good, beautiful color. So that's better. Fresh, clean water in my water container. To my right, I have usually a tissue or a sponge or a paper towel that I hold in my hand or I have next to me. And then I just take a little bit of water off the brush when I rinse off my brush each time, and then go in and get my paint. So now we know we're creating a beautiful apple. Let's take some, what would be the most sensible thing, a little tiny bit of green. We're going to have some red, cadmium red this is. Let's go with some alizarin crimson. You can see that alizarin crimson is a little bit more toward the cooler side. It's more toward the purple or blue. Wonderful color. And then maybe even some rose madder, more of a transparent color, a transparent reddish pink. And then we have our green. We just want to touch a green, sap green, to just neutralize the reds just a tiny bit. And then we even want to have a little bit of maybe some raw sienna over here. Okay. That should be fine. Next thing we're going to do is let's make sure that when we're creating our still life subject matter here, let's take our Sharpie pen and we'll say, where is the light coming from? So I did mention the brightest light that I do have in my studio here is up above to this side over here on the right. So let's take this and just make a light spotlight insignia like this, and that's where the light's coming from. And that will tell us that we need to maybe a touch of blue, some cerulean blue over here for some shadow. That'll give us our more shadow color over here for our apple. Okay, so we put a little bit of that more shadowy color there, which has some blue. And then I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water on a paper towel. And then I get some of my beautiful cadmium red, like that. Then again, I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water, maybe a little more alizarin crimson up here and cadmium red here. Mix those two together and make some really nice red there. And again, please, let's create some beautiful colors here. Let's not just go with one color. That's the thing with watercolor. Give yourself lots of variety. Does that make sense? Create lots of variety when you're painting your compositions, or still life compositions here. Please don't fall into the trap of like just painting like one color, just taking one red and painting the whole apple with that one red. That's really going to be kind of a little bit boring, don't you think? You're the watercolor artist and you're trying to get the most interesting painting you can create. So part of that is thinking outside the box and saying, hey, let me add lots of variety to my color, and that's what we're doing. And then I'll even get some more red here, like that. And then I'll put a little bit of cobalt blue for some shadow. So I'll pick up some cobalt blue over here and then add some burnt umber to that and some raw sienna to that. And we'll just do a shadow over here, like that, underneath. All right, good. We have a shadow now. So it feels like our apple is on the table and resting on the table, and there's a shadow. The light's coming from here this way. And we're going to keep working. We're going to take some of that yellow, which is raw sienna, and some red, and we'll put that up here. This is the really light part of the apple. And we'll leave that square of light that we said we were going to leave that highlight on top of the, like that. Maybe a little more cadmium red over here. And then maybe some burnt umber up here, and a little bit of that blue and green. And we'll make our stem. And then to take it and create a next level of interest, I'll just kind of leave that highlight there like a square basically. Let me take some green and make sort of a greenish gray color. I'm going to make the back of it, we'll pretend this is apples on a table, like this. Like that, and then we can go just do a little bit of like this. Maybe a little bit of blue. Splash a little bit of blue on there. Maybe do a quick couple of brush strokes just to get something on the paper to make it look a little more interesting. A couple of splashes, and that's it. A little more green here. Like that. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water. Damp brush, just kind of you might want to, we could straighten out this line a little bit. The back of the table here, maybe we could pick up a little bit of that blue, gray, bluish gray over here and just touch down a little bit here and there. A couple more splashes. And that's it. We have a gorgeous apple. Still life. It's so much fun. We just focus in on one component at a time, one bit of information at a time. We get it in, we paint it, and what we said here really, which was kind of key, is one, we know we want to have our light source figured out, right? So we made that spotlight there. We know the light's coming from this direction here. So that gives us right away, that light source insignia gives us where our shadow is going to be. So we want to have a shadow. That makes it look very realistic. Like we have a light source, a shadow, sunlight, spotlight, whatever it is. Maybe your table is set up next to a window and there's some light coming through the window and you'll want to see that shadow next to the apple. We want to see a table, basically. A white tablecloth is fine, so we'll pretend this is a white tablecloth on a table and we're near a window and the light's coming through the window, or maybe it's just a white tablecloth on a table and there's a light in the room above us shining down, and that's what we'll see. We'll perceive the light effects of lighter tonal values on our apple on this side of the apple, and then over on this side of the apple a little bit more darker tonal values, a little more shadowing. You can add some blue maybe if you wanted to, or some green on this left side of the apple as we finish up, if you wanted to emphasize that shadow on this side. And then if you go over a spot, no problem, just take a tissue, lift up like that. Okay, just so much fun. And again, this is, we can really build our watercolor skills by just working on these small compositions over and over again. And especially if you like to paint those still life paintings, right? They're so beautiful. We'll paint some flowers too in the coming compositions that we're going to work on. So you'll have so much fun kind of building all the different components of an actual still life. Some fruit, some flowers, a vase, maybe a coffee cup, a cappuccino cup, something really interesting. All these interesting parts. We're going to do them all right here, okay? All right, so let's keep going. So next thing I'll do is take a quick break, relax. I'll take this apple, I'll put it to the side, and we'll get something else over here. We'll get started with another, component here, another bit of subject matter, still life subject matter. And okay, so we'll be right back. All right, so we're just moving on down the line here, and we have our apple. We're going to lift up our apple. Next thing we're going to do is a cappuccino cup. I think what I'll do is I'll put the cappuccino cup here, and we'll maybe paint that down here to the left. And then once we get finished with this, we'll start putting our subject matter over here and work on the right side. Okay, I hope that's okay by you. I think that's going to be the best way we do it. So I'll just peel off my tape. I just created that double stick tape by rolling the tape over on itself. So I'll just do the same thing. I'll just set that back down there, and we'll set this up here like so. And then we'll draw this in pencil, of course. And again, I have a B pencil, a B. It's an 8B pencil, Statler. Okay, so we'll actually, I don't worry about sometimes every detail about something like setting it up perfectly straight or anything like this. I just want to get it on the basic idea of it on top of my table here. I'd like to see the top of it, so what I'll do is I'll actually double up on my tape so that you can see as well at home where you're working in your studio. I want you to see the actual top of the cappuccino cup so that you can get that little bit of an ellipse on top of there. A little bit of that oval look, because that can really go a long way. That really looks beautiful. You can get like the top of the vase, or the top of the cappuccino cup. So I'll put a little more tape up there and see if I can get a little bit of an angle on this. Yeah, perfect. See, now you can see the top of there. So you'll see that little bit of an oval here. That's what I wanted you to see. So you see the oval there on camera. And don't worry if it's on an angle. You want to pretty much paint it straight as if it's sitting on the table like this, like the apple. Alright, so that's the next thing I'll do is I'll take the same concept that I used for the apple. I want the cappuccino cup to fill the space here, like the apple, right? You see how the apple fills the space of this rectangle. Let's create our rectangle here like this. We'll use some pencil just to reiterate the pencil line here to show the rectangle as it's sitting here on my working table. So you see that's the rectangle. Now we wouldn't, again, the problem sometimes, I will say, some watercolor artists, probably not you, but I've seen other watercolor artists do this, where they have a rectangle of paper, and the next thing they do is they make something like a coffee cup or an apple or something, and they make it like this big in the paper, like this, if you can imagine. So you always want to have like the subject matter that you're working with. And since it's only this apple or this cappuccino cup, we want to fill the space up here. So if you can imagine, if we made our cappuccino cup or apple this big, that wouldn't look good at all. That would kind of be like someone's going to be straining their eyes to look and see what we've done here on our painting. So when you're creating your paintings, you as well as anyone else that might be interested in your paintings, or if you're putting them into galleries, as an artist, you're always going to want to think of this like, okay, I'm going to be selling my artwork maybe possibly eventually, or maybe you're doing that now. or you're going to be putting it into competitions, or you're going to be giving it to friends and family and things like this, or putting some of your artwork on, like maybe some like a gift card or cards, like occasional cards. We make occasional cards here on my channel. You'll see that we'll do that once in a while. You could just type in occasional cards, Chris Petri occasional cards. You'll see that we've created a lot of occasional cards. So you can create your own birthday cards, Christmas cards, holiday cards, birthday cards, whatever it is, by just putting together a nice little painting on some watercolor paper and folding it up and making it like a nice presentation. So you can do that too. So all you would do is just look up again my name, Chris Petri, Chras, last name Petri, and then occasional cards. And you'll see that I probably made about 10 or 15 of them on my channel over the last 5 years or so. So you can always check those out. But in any case, here we go. We don't want to do something like this where we make our subject matter this small within a rectangle this large. So just we keep that in mind. So I'm going to take my cappuccino cup here that I see, and I'm going to put it in this rectangle. And I'm going to say, all right, let me kind of think of the idea of when you have a rectangle or a square and you're working within that. If you put something high in the rectangle, let's take some tape here. If you take something like this and put it here, like we'll pretend this is the cappuccino cup. If you put it high in the picture frame like that, like this, it's going to look like it's kind of floating. So we want to take it and bring it down like this and make it feel like it's resting on the bottom of our composition. So it's a little bit of compositional thought that we'll give to our work here. And as an artist, you'll just kind of always be thinking of that as like when I'm placing my subject matter into a rectangle, I'm going to be thinking of compositionally, do I want it to feel like it's resting down and setting on the table or in the picture frame? Maybe you do want it to have it up high. Maybe you want something to feel like it's floating. You can do different things like this, but you'll think about it a little bit. But most often, if you're painting something like subject matter, like still life subject matter, like apples, flowers, vases, cappuccino cups, things like this, fruits, vegetables, different things like this, you're going to want them probably kind of more setting down in the bottom of the picture frame. So that's why I do this. Okay, so I put it down here at the bottom. So here, let's set that here. Then I'll look at this cup, and I'm going to start at the bottom. You can do two things. You can start off with a preliminary sketch, which is super light, to kind of do the first run, let's say. Like this, the first run, and I'll tip it just a little more so I can kind of see the top there. You could do a light sketch first, like this. You probably can't see that much, really. It's going to be hard for you to probably see this on the video, but I did do that light sketch first. So I say to myself, okay, Chris, does that look pretty close to what you're seeing over here? And I say, yeah, it does. So I'm pretty happy with this really super light sketch. Now I can go over with a darker pencil line. So now you'll see me go across here, and then I'm just going to take my time, go up here. Maybe I'll go across here first, and then go around there like that, and I'll come across. I'll come down here. Then I'm going to see a little bit of the handle of the cappuccino cup over there, and like this, like that. Okay, and then sure enough, we are going to see a shadow. I will put a shadow over here, like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing as we did up here. I'm going to put the table across here like this. So we'll have the back of the table, we'll have another white tablecloth, and we'll create this painting this way. And then I will have a little bit of light there at the top. All right, perfect. All right, so we've worked quite a bit. Right now, let's take a quick break. I'm going to take a 5-minute break if it's okay. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll start painting this right away. All right, let's get started with our painting. Let's I'll empty my water. You can kind of see I have quite a bit of red in there in the water. I'm just going to, again, if I have murky looking water, I will empty it out and start with fresh water. So I'll always do that. I'm also going to spritz a little bit on my palette here, like so. I'll even spritz my paints a little bit, keep them moist as we're working. I will clean up my palette a little bit. I'm going to start with fresh, clean colors. So I'll just lift up my previous colors that we used for the apple, and then we'll do this. Now, we're going to keep this more simple. Let's go with, I would say cobalt blue, good all-around blue for anything you might be working with in any painting with blue. And then I will take that blue and then maybe take a little bit of raw sienna, like this. And I think that might be good. I think I'll be happy with that sort of color range there. Some cobalt blue mixing in with some raw sienna, and then taking some more straight tube color raw sienna over here on the right so that we can differentiate between the blue and the raw sienna, and then have the grayish color in between those two. So we'll keep this more of a simple color scheme, and I'll add a little more blue there, and let's see, we'll get some more color out there, maybe a little more raw sienna up here too, like this. Okay. Alright, so I have some tissue in my hand here. We'll just, so I can rinse off my brush, take a little bit of the water off the tissue, and we'll get right into painting the shadow, bottom shadow portion of our cup here, of our cappuccino cup. And I'll pick up some of the gold. I want to mix the gold and the yellow both at the same time. I don't want to kind of get that one color look. You know how that is sometimes. As an artist, you'll kind of recognize sometimes other artists, they'll just use one color. They might just take one color out of their palette, like this blue, and paint the whole thing blue. That looks, I don't know, does it make sense? It kind of looks a little bit boring if you just use one color. Let's make warm and cool colors here. So blue and gold. Blue and gold. Warm and cool. Like that. Rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water. I want to try to sort of get that bit of light over here, so the light's coming from this direction. Again, we're just going to stick with that same light pattern. So I will just redo the spotlight here, if you don't mind, so that we know where the light is. Okay, and then let's take some more of that blue, raw sienna, and blue. We'll do the shadow over here. Couple of splashes, never hurt anything. And then let's do that. Let's get some shadow in this cup here at the top. So this cappuccino cup has a little bit of a shadow this side. The light's coming from here. So if you can imagine, you're starting to see a little bit of a shadow on this side over here, on the inside of that cup, the cappuccino cup. And then the light is hitting over here, so that's going to be white paper. And then there's some more blue up here. We could even accentuate a little bit of the shadow up there, like that. Like this. All right. And let's do a little bit of shadowing over here. And then I'll take some more blue. And let's do this. Let's keep this really simple. The color scheme is going to be the two colors, cobalt blue and raw sienna. And that is it. And a little bit of splashing with some fresh, clean water for the most part. And then you can take your brush and just kind of move it around a little bit, give yourself some movement in the painting. In the small composition, you can even get a little bit of movement going like that. And there we have it. We have a wonderful cappuccino cup. A couple of splashes. And we're ready to move on to our next compositional painting. Okay, so we're having a fun time here. Let's get ourselves situated here. All right, let me take a 5-minute break. So we're going to get something next. Let's do some flowers next, I think. All right, so let's take a quick break for 5 minutes. We'll come back. We'll get a little bit of some flower shapes in here, and we'll work on some of that. All right, we're going to move right along here. Next, we'll do a few flowers, some small wildflowers. These are some white, interesting flowers here. Let's kind of take a look and see. Let's, again, we'll try to just make sure we have our light source over here, just to make that bit of a icon for ourselves so that we know the light's coming from this way, the light source, the predominant light source. And then we're just going to take these few flowers. Let's just, I'll take the stems this way. And then I'm just going to make this stem over here like this, just to get myself started. 2 stems. And then over here, we're going to have a two leaf forms here, and then here we have the bottom of the flower, the underside of the flower here. There's another bit of some stems there. Then the same thing here, bottom of the flower, like that. And then we'll do the petals of the flower. So here I see one over here, another one up here, over here there's some more. So I'm just going to have some fun getting in some of those loose petal shapes for the flowers. I won't go too detailed with things. I want to try to keep it loose. I just want to get a few of those lines in there. And the same thing here. This is quite a bit of a large leaf form over there. This one here comes here. This one under here actually goes right around there, and then we have another here like that. All right, so I think we have some good basic pencil lines in, contour drawings in, to give us our flower shapes here, our petals and our stems. Next, what I'll do is I think I might even shift down to a smaller brush. Let's see if I have, maybe what I'll do is I'll move to the travel brush, number 5 Da Vinci travel brush. It's a synthetic brush, synthetic round brush. It comes with the Schmincke watercolor set. I use the Schmincke watercolor set a lot on my videos. You probably have seen it quite a bit. It's a little smaller than this, maybe half the size of this palette, and it has a little owl on the top of the metal pan on the top portion of the palette. But in any case, I will use this number 5 Da Vinci travel brush, and then what I'll do is, again, I try to have a awareness of always wanting to paper towel, dip it into my water container, and then I just clean up my palette like so, and that's fine. And then I'm going to go with some sap green, a little bit of burnt umber here, sap green, burnt umber. That'll get us a good start to our leaf forms. So I'll just start at the bottom, and since I have this smaller brush, and you can see it does have a good, really nice point on there, we can really get some nice looking shapes, some leaf form shapes. Sap green, mostly sap green, a little bit of some blue. Like that. And then more dark under here like so. So I just try to swirl my brush around, kind of capture that really nice shape things. This is the stem. That's going to be kind of straight. I would just take I usually rest my hand on the paper, so I have a really stable position with my hand is resting on the table, pressing down, and then I just have my brush here, and then I just start, and it's just more or less like my hand stays affixed to my art table as I just take the brush and just kind of move it across like that. And that tends to really be a good stable way to paint, like that. And we'll do a little more here, stem. Maybe I'll add a little bit of water, so I dip my brush in some water. Make it a little more of some additional water to the wash. And then I can just do a couple quick splashes like that, just to kind of give some texture to the painting. And then you can kind of see we have some raw sienna. Again, we're keeping a very simple color scheme, and I'll just gently add some shadow here to the bottom of the leaf forms and the petals. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water, a little bit of the golden color there, and that's sort of going to give us that bit of some shadow on the underside here of the petals of the flowers. And then you can always remember that that's a little bit of blue, so a little more blue for shadow on the undersides up here, like that. And then you can always remember you can actually paint around. You can pick up some more paint like this, and you can paint around the petals over here. So we'll put a little bit of background there, like so. A little bit of raw sienna. So we're going to have some warm and cool, like this. And again, you can make some little bits of darks to help your lights of your petals of your flowers kind of look good, and kind of it gives it an exciting look if you can actually get some of those dark little bits of paint along the, like that, along the flower petals. You could add a little bit of maybe some alizarin crimson, like that. And then you can add some more fresh, clean water onto your paper. Splash on some color, some of the greens and golds over here. Like this. And that's all. So you can see I scrubbed in quite a bit of color into this composition. Once I had the flowers complete, like the petals and everything. You can blot up a little bit of paint. And a little more paint, and a couple of splashes here and there, like that. And that to me looks good. Again, we're practicing some flower shapes, some flower petals, leaf forms, practicing a little bit of some background here, a little bit of splashing. We could take some more splashing like that, with the alizarin crimson over here too as well. And I think we have a good rendition of some flowers. And we're going to be right back. We're just going to take a quick break. We'll get reset up again. We'll have another composition here. And let's get started in just a few minutes. All right, while we were away, I just set up a pepper, and we'll create this. We'll just take our, this is plastic pepper. I'll just draw it right here. So the first thing I'll do is, I want to think of it as being maybe more toward the lower portion of the rectangle, so we'll get the rectangle here with our pencil, just to give ourselves our concrete rectangle. That's what we're working with in here. And then I'm just going to say, all right, let me see if I can do a light sketch first, like this, maybe. Okay, so I did my light sketch first. Looks good. I think I can go with that. Let me see. Okay, so okay, looks good. Now I'm gonna, again, we'll keep this kind of simple. Maybe I will kind of create a backdrop here. Maybe halfway to 3/4, maybe 3/4 of the way up. I'll put a table back here, a table edge, the back of the table. So we're going to pretend this is a white tablecloth, and the back of the table is here. And we have some shadows and things up above there, but we won't really worry about that right now. We're just going to get our green. So I think we have the greens right here. We don't have to worry too much. I think we can just start out with some more green here, right where we left off with the flowers. And we'll have some yellow up here, some more brighter cadmium lemon yellow. And if you ever have some watercolor, or I should say water in your watercolor paints, you can always lift up a little bit of the water that might have drifted into your paints with some tissue. Same thing over here. I see some water building up in my cadmium yellow. So you can see, you can lift up some water out of there. If you spritz your paints to keep them moist, you can always go in and lift out some of that water. If you see some of it has, been maybe infiltrated by other colors, let's say. If that does happen, don't worry about it. I'll do a little more spritzing here now, one more time. Okay, looks good. We'll get some of the, again, sap green. I'll rinse off my brush. I have the tissue, dry off a little bit of the water. I might have a little bit of this here, the yellow, cadmium lemon yellow. That might be over here, like that. There might be some more of that cadmium lemon yellow over there, like this, so I'll put that there. Like this, and then we have more of that blue, cobalt blue mixed in with the sap green. I notice it's a little bit darker here at the bottom. So I'll just go around like this. Okay, so you see how we got that shadow? And then I can just slowly mix that up in there like so. And there's maybe a highlight on there. A little bit of cobalt blue mixed in with the green. And there's some more darker green there. Like that. And then you can definitely see some shadow underneath here. So I will take the green, add a little bit of raw sienna. It's got a little bit of a warmer feel to it. I'll carefully, and then add some more blue and green. Like that, for the shadow. And I'll put the cast shadow of the stem of the like this. Okay. I might rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water, actually a lot of the water. I'll see if I can get a little bit of a dry off the, rinse off and dry off the water. So I'm taking a damp brush basically and trying to see if I can get a little bit of some reflected light from the bottom of the pepper, like that. And then maybe I can go back into here and like that. And I think that looks pretty good. I might just make a little bit of a darker. All right, looks good. And then I can just go across like this once, and then maybe again up here like so, just to have some color above. Maybe a little bit of splashing here like that. If your splashes don't come out perfect and you think you might want to blot them up, you can blot up a few of them like so. And then go back in, maybe make a few darker shadows. French ultramarine blue. Like that. A couple of extra. Like that. And that green pepper, I think, looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's take a quick break. We will come back. We'll reset up our watercolor paper. As you can see, we have 4 sections on our paper here. So if I actually lift up my pepper now, we're completed with our pepper. And I lift that up. We have the 4 sections here. And what we'll do is, maybe when we come back, we'll peel up all the tape so you can kind of see each of these compositions on their own. These are really nice. If you can do these with your tape, you'll really be happy. You can get a nice crisp edge around all of your compositions. They'll look really good. You can save them in a box or in a file, in a manila folder, or something. This way, you can pin them up on the wall if they come out really good. If you like a few of them in particular, you can cut them and trim them out and put them up on your wall, on your refrigerator, in your studio, in your office space, wherever wherever you think you might like to put them. Keeps you excited about some of the really good compositions you're coming up with and painting. Okay, so that's the main thing, is keep motivated, keep yourself excited. If you have a couple of good, obviously a few of them aren't going to come out great. Like, I'm not that happy with the flower ones here right now, but you're always going to have that. As a watercolor artist, you're going to have some really good paintings. Even when you first start out, you're going to find that you'll have a few good ones here and there. Some of them are not going to turn out too good. Don't worry about those. The ones that don't turn out too good, put them aside. Just put them in a file somewhere. Don't really like the good ones that come out good. Put those up, pin them up, put them somewhere where you can see them and say, hey, why does this look good? That's the thing. Ask yourself the question, why did certain of my compositions, why do they look good? And you'll have the answers. You'll say, oh wow, yeah, this one here, I got really good light. The light came down and I can see the bright light effects on the apple over here, and then I can see there's some really nice shadow effects on this side of the apple, and we have a nice shadow there, and we have a really beautiful, impactful looking table here, white tablecloth with some shadows in the background, really nice, you know. So the ones that come out really good, save those, you know, pin those up, keep them to the side, you know. If some of them don't come out great, you might say, oh yeah, this one, it didn't come out so great. I maybe didn't really paint the background that great on this one. I should have maybe left it white paper, but I painted too much of the background. Maybe something like that. You know, you kind of critique your own work. That's the best way to go. All right, so we'll come right back in a few seconds, and we'll peel off all the tape, and we'll see how these look. They're going to look a lot better once we peel off the tape, that's for sure. Okay, we'll be right back. All right, so we're going to move right along here. So let's lift up our tape for this 4 quadrants that we did for our first 4 compositions. Still life compositions. Again, we're practicing smaller parts of the whole, so maybe eventually when you maybe in the near future you'll be excited, you want to paint maybe like a vase of flowers and maybe put some fruits in there, maybe an apple, a tomato, a pepper, maybe a coffee cup, a cappuccino cup. You already have this practiced. You'll already have practiced this, and you'll save this and put this in your nearby, so that if you're going to create a still life painting, well, you'll have this for reference. You'll say, oh, I do remember I created this still life painting. Peel off the center. And this looks great. And again, if they come out really good, 1 or 2 come out really good, or even 3 or 4, whatever, you could just, you know, once you take off all the tape, you can actually cut these with a scissor and trim them down and make them smaller if you want, individuals. If they all come out pretty good and if you're satisfied with all of them, you can just leave it just like this, and you can even have that pinned up in your studio, in your living room, your dining room, wherever you work, wherever you like to paint, your den, maybe your kitchen, whatever it is. You could put these and just you'll be able to look at them, reflect on what you did. You'll remember painting them on our video here. We're working together. You everything will click for you, and you'll realize some of the methods and techniques we were using as we were going through these and painting these, and it'll be a big help, actually. All right, so we have these 4 completed. Let's get to our next 4, and I'm going to do the same thing here. What I'll do is off camera. Obviously, I'm not going to bore everybody here. I'm not going to bore everybody here with taping everything off. You kind of get the idea. I just have some frog tape. This is the really good frog tape. It's called advanced frog tape. I do the whole outside border first with this, and then I take a little bit of a smaller tape. This here. This is like a drafting tape, and I do this the center like that, the 2 centers, roughly, you know, centered, and that's it, almost like a window pane, and that is really it. And so we'll get that all set up, and then we'll come back. So you'll see when I'm done, I'll have everything taped ready for the next part of the video, and we'll get started. Okay, so be right back in a few seconds. All right, we're all set up and ready to go for our next 4 compositions here. So I just wanted to mention I taped everything around with the larger frog tape, and then some drafting tape in the center. So I made basically 4 quadrants, 4 compositions within this picture frame here. So for this first one here, we're going to go for it. We're going to do the shorebird here. And then for the shorebird, let's not stress out too much about it. Yeah, it's something a little different. Maybe not everyone is painting these. I don't know. But I really enjoy painting shorebirds. I paint them all the time with my still lifes and also in my paintings. Sometimes I'll put a bird in here and there in my paintings, in my seascapes and landscapes. Basically, just think of it this way. Think of a teardrop shape for the body, and then maybe just a small round circle for the head, and then you connect the teardrop shape with the round circle. So I'll kind of show you how you do it here, and then we have the beak and the eye, of course, and we have the this is the actual pedestal and the dowel that's the wood carving is set with on top of the base. All right, I'll just do a quick rendition here. All right, I'm going to do the teardrop shape first. So let me do this. Let me do a teardrop shape here first, like this. Okay, that's the teardrop shape there. You could take a kneaded eraser and erase a little bit if you have to, if you need to. Like that. Basically a teardrop shape. And then the head, you're just going to make a circle over here on this quarter. So if you can imagine, if you have your teardrop shape and then you draw another circle within that teardrop shape, the head is going to be sort of like at 11 o'clock. If you're thinking of a watch dial, so if you're thinking of a watch dial, you draw your teardrop shape first, then you're thinking of a watch dial here, and that would be 12. If you turn it back to 11, that's going to be 11 o'clock. That'll be your round circle for the head of the bird, the shorebird. And then you just connect the two shapes with a little curve on each, up and lower. And then we just put a beak on there like that. And then the eye is about the same thing, 11 o'clock on the circle here. And that is really it. And then on the watch dial here, the circle here, that's going to be your dowel. I won't draw in the base on this one. Let's just draw the bird carving like this. And then we have a little bit of a wing over here that goes back like that. So you have another teardrop shape within the teardrop shape for the wing, and you're all set. All right, let's paint this. So we'll kind of go with the flow here of what we see. I'll use a small brush, and this is the number 5 Da Vinci Maestro travel brush, synthetic hairs. I'm going to empty my water container, put fresh clean water in my water container as I always do. I'm probably going to just clean up my palette a little bit. I'll just take a little spritzer bottle, spritz palette, take a bit of paper towel, maybe I'll trim it down a little bit, conserve on my paper towels, and as long as I get, for the most part, most of the paint off, I'm fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and then we continue on with our same methods and techniques as we always use. We rinse off our brush, we take a little bit of water off on a tissue or a sponge or a paper towel, and then we're going to want to look at this and say, all right, this is going to be a burnt sienna, burnt umber, so you can have some burnt umber, burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of cerulean blue mixed in there too for some cool mixture with warmer colors like that. And I think if you have those 3 colors there, you're really going to be fine. You might add a little bit of alizarin crimson like that, but these are fine. So we'll use the warmer colors over here, and we'll just start putting in our circle, that first circle there for the head. And I'll come around like this, pick up some more of the darker, a little bit of the cerulean blue over here for some of the shadow, because again, we're working really with the light coming from this direction. So let's just automatically go right up to our tape, put our insignia of our light insignia there, and then we know the light's coming from this direction, so there'll be a little more shadow on this side of the bird, the shorebird here, wood carving. I purchased this in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I go out there with my parents each year. We shop, we go have a great time, get some great food, dinner, stay out there. Everyone's really wonderful there. All the friendly people there, the workers, the farmers, everybody is very, very friendly. So we have a great time. We'll do the wing over here like so. Okay. And of course, a little bit of cobalt blue maybe under here. It's a little bit darker under here. With a little bit of that burnt sienna, so we can infuse that burnt sienna with that cobalt blue on the underside of the bird. Then we will take, again, more cobalt blue, dark, burnt sienna, mix that in there with a little bit of the burnt umber. Then you have a nice, really nice dark. Then you load up your brush with that. Then maybe you take a little bit off on a tissue or a sponge or a paper towel. And then we'll just do a quick vertical line like that for the dowel that's underneath the shorebird. Okay, and I can see already you're happy. I know I can see you there at home, in your studio, in your living room, your kitchen, your den, your bedroom, wherever you like to work and paint. You're happy. You're getting this shorebird done really nicely. We will take a little more of that lightish gray color and go across the back of the wing. And then what we'll do is we'll even take some more of that cerulean blue, and maybe we'll just put a little bit of wash on the top of the bird, and then we can kind of get a little bit of a just a little bit of background. Okay, so I'm just doing some background colors, some splashes, and what this does is just loosen up the whole thing, make everything kind of free, fun. I wouldn't do too much near this, that dowel that we did there for the bird, because you can see how I kind of disrupted that. That's where you want to let things dry sometimes. So I forgot to mention, let things dry. Maybe we would have been better if we left things dry, or let things dry before we okay, but this does look good if you can get some splashes in there, a little bit of background texture like that, and I think we're good. I will try to get a little more of that blue around where the head is. I don't want to leave white paper sort of. Sometimes white paper, I really enjoy using white paper all the time. Okay, so you see I'm doing a lot of fun brushwork. Please have fun. Please use lots of brushwork, splashing like that. And what we'll do is now we're going to let this just dry 100%, and then we'll come back in and do a few touch-ups here and there. That's the fun of watercolor. You can let things happen, enjoy it, you know. You can come back in and do a little bit of blotting. But I like this. It's kind of fun. We have some splashing. We have a little bit of diffused watercolor washes on here. We have a little bit of blotting with our tissue. We have really nice color. We'll let this dry, and then we'll come back and just do our final washes and touch-ups, and I think we'll be really happy with this. Okay, all right, let's take a quick break, let this dry. You could use a blow dryer at this point for maybe just a couple minutes just to dry this off quick. I'll do that, and this way we can get back to working a little more quickly. All right, we're going to finish up now. Let's get some burnt sienna, burnt umber, cobalt blue, cerulean blue. I think that should be fine. Some okay. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and then we can just carefully blend that darker dark in there. Blot up that there if you like to. Then we're going to get right away into the dark here, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, just to get a really nice dark for the beak. Just like that. We'll do the eye, the beak. So we did the eye, the beak. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water, so you just have a damp brush and you can kind of blend the shadows in under there, like that. Then we'll get a little bit of that dark here, and we'll just maybe do a nice little dark line on the left side of this dowel that's connected to the base. And this way you have the light coming this way, so you have the dark shadow on this side of the dowel that's connected to the base, and that's fine. And I think that's really looking good. I don't think we should do much more. You know, sometimes doing too much can get us in trouble. Let's not do that. Let's leave it as it is. It's kind of loose, fun. That's what we're looking for, having a loose, fun time, creating our compositions here. We're not trying to do anything perfect at all. We're just trying to get in our repetitions. It's pretty much like practicing scales if you're a musician, right? If you're a guitar player, a singer, piano player, you're going to get in your scales. You're going to practice your scales, you know, one after the next. You just practice the same scale in the same key, one after the next. Then maybe you change your key and you do something different. Same with a guitar. Same thing with a voice. If you're singing, you're going to do your scales. This work here with our compositions with our still life is the same thing. You're almost like practicing just like you would have like an instrument, or if you're an athlete and you're practicing, you're going to be practicing your throwing, or maybe, you know, you're going to be practicing your swinging for your batting, whatever it is. Kind of think of it as a disciplinary thing where you're just trying to do your repetitions, get them in there so that, you know, you can kind of get familiar with it, feel good about it, and then, you know, as you're working on your larger paintings eventually, when you're going to be doing a like more finished painting, maybe perhaps for any number of reasons, could be anything really, you'll have that repetition over and over again. The repetition's the mother of skill. So if you want skills, you have to have repetition, and this is your repetition. So if you like this shorebird and you say, oh wow, I really like shorebirds, I want to put them in my still life paintings or in my seascape paintings, landscape paintings, whatever it is, then just do the repetitions. Practice this, you know, once, twice, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 times you'll practice your shorebird. Maybe you do it a couple times once a week. You'll go, I'm going to paint 2 shorebirds every weekend. And you'll paint 2 of these just like this. And you'll get familiar with it. And it'll actually be a lot easier when you go to create a beautiful shorebird in your painting the next time that you're going to be maybe utilizing this type of subject matter. Okay, all right, let's get, I forgot to mention, hey, if you really like these videos, please subscribe on the right hand side below. All that does is just let YouTube know that you're interested in these videos on my channel, and they'll just show you that each time I make a new video, you'll see that in your YouTube channel when you open up your YouTube application. When you go onto YouTube, you'll see it, a little video on the side, and it'll say Chris Petri made a new video. This way you don't lose track of us. You'll keep with us, up to date with what we're doing. And again, we're creating videos every week. Week after week, month after month, and year after year here on YouTube. And we're doing all different kinds of subject matter. I'm doing still life right now, compositions with all different kinds of still life, subject matter. But maybe next week I'm going to be doing a beautiful seascape with waves and sand and beach, waves, crashing waves coming in. Or maybe after that I'll be doing a flower painting with a vase and a beautiful bouquet of flowers. So all the favorite things that you like to paint as a watercolor artist, I'm going to be creating these types of paintings and subject matter and videos on my channel every week again. So don't worry, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be all set. This way you don't lose track of us again. And we'll get right back into it. We're going to grab another bit of subject matter, and we'll get started on another painting. Okay, be right back. All right, so let's get started with another painting here, another composition. Let's do maybe a few paint tubes. What do you think? Well, we just move them around a little bit. Maybe that's good. All right. I'll get a pencil. Maybe I'll use a retractable pencil here. And we'll just do this here. I'll set these just like so. Now, the first thing I like to do, again, when we're contour drawing, before we contour draw these two tubes of paint, let's do a preliminary sketch, basically just getting everything in the right place. So we have our rectangle here, so we take our pencil lines, we go around like this. Okay, that's our rectangle, just like up here, where we have the rectangle here. And then I'll just take it and I'll say, let's start here. We go outside the boundary a little bit. Not a problem. You can do that. I do a very light sketch like this. And I go like this. And go like that. You can barely see that, but in a second I'll go over it with a darker pencil line. And then I will do another light pencil sketch, just so I kind of get the feel for the subject matter as we're working. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, and then let's do this other one again, doing a preliminary light sketch. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that I try to like that. All right, so I kind of did a light preliminary sketch. Again, just to get my two paint tubes to kind of fit into the rectangle here. You can kind of see I went out. So here, if you look at this rectangle here like this, I did do the same thing. I kind of took this tube of paint and left the bottom of it out of the picture frame, like that. And then here's the picture frame again, going around this way. The only thing I did different is I took this tube of paint and squeezed it down into the top of this picture frame here. So that's where sometimes you have to take your artist liberty and work a little bit with what you have and try to I wouldn't want to leave the top of this paint tube out of the picture frame, so that's why I kind of brought it down a little more here, and we'll go over with a darker pencil line right now. All right, so now I've got a very, very light pencil sketch. You might be able to see it a little bit on camera right now, but now we'll go over with a darker sketch just so you can kind of see how I would do this. And then to contour draw it, I'm just going to start in one place, and it's like we're taking a trip through the painting, through the drawing. And then I'm just going to go around here. That's our top of the tube. Okay, and then there's a little bit of a white trim there. And then we have a little bit of a... Oh, wait a second. I think my phone is... For some reason, my phone started to play a video, so we're going to keep going here. So this is going to be here, and this is like this, like that. Okay, and then we have very little bit of that there, and then we have the top here. Like that. And then over here, we're going to go like this. We're going to come up like this. We'll go like this around here. There's kind of a bit of a rounded edge going this way, like an oval. Okay, and then this comes over here like this. And this goes like that. Like this, and then we could do some finer bits of but that's the essence of it. And then over here we have the same thing. We have the okay, so you can kind of see how it all comes together when we do the darker contour drawing. I won't get into the major details of any of the writing and script on the tubes of paint. I think we'll just leave it kind of plain. We'll have some dark green over here. This is the chromium, oxide of chromium green, and this is Winsor red. I don't use Winsor red all that often, but it is a tube of paint that I do have in my collection of paints, so I think I will use Winsor red once in a while in certain paintings, but not that often anyway. All right, so there we have it, a couple tubes of paint. Let's get painting. Before we do that, let me take a quick break, and again, let me also mention, right before I take my break, that a couple things I always mention is if you haven't subscribed before, please subscribe. This way you're kind of locked in here with our videos on my channel here. This way you're working together with us, all of us here together, painting week after week, month after month, and year after year. You're going to build your skills as a watercolor artist. We cover all the details here. I don't try to hide anything, or I try to explain as much as possible and give you as much information as possible, and all of that information will lead to you having a more of a easier time with watercolor, as well as gaining a lot of knowledge. And the more knowledge you have, you'll have more power. As they say, knowledge is power. More knowledge, more power. So you're picking up lots of knowledge here. You'll be more powerful as an artist, as a watercolor painter. So that's what I want for you, and that's why I cover all the details as we go. And I don't want to leave anything out, so if I do leave anything out, let me know in the comments section below. Leave your comments. Chris, you forgot the colors. Chris, you forgot whatever else. You know, maybe I forgot to mention what paper we're using, whatever. This is the Fabriano Studio watercolor. That's in the description box below. Beautiful, incredibly quality paper for a good price. A large pad, a big thick pad of it, like I think it's 50 sheets of paper. Excellent quality watercolor paper. I use it all the time. That's what we're using here. And then I'm using, again, I mentioned frog tape, the advanced frog tape, which you can get at any big box store like Home Depot or Lowe's, or on Amazon. I think Amazon might have that too. But again, all my supplies are down below, my brushes, my paints, all of that. Also my book has tons of details of how I do my how I create my watercolors, the methods I use, the techniques, the colors of my paints. I have over 65 paintings in my book, and you can see each of those paintings if you click on the video below. It's only a 2-minute video, and you'll see all of the pages of my book really quickly, so you can kind of see what you're getting when you purchase my book. This way you won't feel like you get the book and it's black and white pictures and it's only like 3 paintings. I have tons of paintings in my book. I want you to paint them all, try them out, paint them 2, 3, 4 times. My first book that I've created will last you, many, many years. If you're painting and wanting to paint those paintings in the book, you'll be able to, again, 65 paintings. If you painted one every week, that's 50. You'd take you a year just to paint one painting a week in my book. And then if you paint it 2 or 3 times, you're talking 2, 3, 4 years of plenty of time to work on all of my paintings that I've put into my book that you can work on. I explain all the details of how I created the painting, what techniques I use, what colors. So all these great things I have on my channel here. I'm hoping you'll stick, and that's why I say stick with me here on this channel. Subscribe. Don't forget to do that. Subscribe so you don't lose me. Okay, because sometimes I've done that, but in the past I really enjoyed a video or another artist. I forgot to subscribe and then I couldn't find the person again. So don't do that. Don't let it happen. Click the subscribe button and you'll stick with us here, okay? We're continuing to work, and let's get painting in just a minute, okay? I just want to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. All right, we're getting back. This is really fun here. Let's enjoy this. I'll start out here. Maybe I'll start out up here at the top. We'll do this, the oxide of chromium, the first tube of paint. I'll empty out my my water in my water container. I think I'll clean up my palette just a little bit too. So always remember, as you're working with me, one of the best things I can think about with my channel is I kind of show you how I'm working everything at the same time, all the time. So I'm always showing you all the things I'm doing so that you don't lose track of all the most important points of how I create my paintings and my art, and all the valuable things that you can practice. And so the thing I'm doing here is I'm just cleaning up my palette from my previous painting, which was our shorebird. I want to clean up the palette, take off those paints. It doesn't have to be perfect, just get the majority of the paint you had out on your palette. You clean that up, you take it off with a paper towel, and you're ready to go for our next painting here. And then now I've changed out my water to a fresh, clean water in my water container. You can see like that. And then I'm just using again my Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. It's a number 5, and this is actually a synthetic brush. Now, synthetic hairs, I always mention this. Synthetic hairs are perfect for people that are just starting out in watercolor. So if you're just starting out, I have tons of, again, information below in the description box of all my art supplies. So I give you beginners art supplies as well as those of you that know already, you've been in watercolor for a while. You'll kind of know the different styles of art supplies and maybe some of the brushes that are a little more expensive, and they're like, you'll kind of figure those things out as you go. So don't worry about it. But in the beginning, if you use your synthetic brushes, you're going to have an easier time painting watercolor because it's less water in your brush. Sometimes a lot of people have problems where they put so much water in their brushes that by the time they're putting paint on their papers, the water is just flooding all over their paper and making a mess. So I don't want you to have that problem. I want you to avoid that problem. So that's why, again, I say if you are starting out in watercolor and it's just your kind of first week or two or month or two, or maybe it's your first day here, welcome. If it's your first time here and you never have been on my channel before, great to have you here. Thanks. Love to have you here every week as you paint. And again, I'll take my brush, rinse it off, take a little bit of water off the brush on a paper towel, and then we'll go in and we're gonna use the same paint that this is, and this is the oxide of chromium. And look at that. We'll just tap that brush down on the paper, and then just move the paint around a little bit as we set it down there. And then again, as we always say, try to remember to just make a little quick note on your paper where the light is coming from, the light source. So here the predominant light source is coming this way. I have a large lamp up above my studio table right here, and it's right up above this way. So it's coming and shining the light down this way. So I'll make my icon. This is my watercolor light icon. And this way, whenever I'm painting, if I am in the middle of working on my painting and I say, oh, where's the light coming from? I just look, oh yes, there it is. That's where the light's coming from. This side of the painting going this way. And then this way I'll put my paint over here, thicker and darker in tonal value. I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the paint, and then I can maybe just thin it out a little bit like this and make it lighter, like that. And you can even go back in and lift a little bit off like this. Okay. Now, let's take this chromium of oxide, green, and then add a touch of cadmium, let's go with alizarin crimson. And what we're going to do with these two, chromium, oxide of chromium and alizarin crimson, we'll make a bit of a gray, like that. Then I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water, take a little bit of this, and then we'll just kind of look over at our tube over here, and we'll just make some shadows. Okay, that's all. Just to give ourselves some shadowing effects. Like that. And it comes down here like this and like this here. So I'm trying to just follow what I'm looking at here very closely. And then I look over here and I do see a little more shadow over here. Like that. And the same thing over here. There's more of a shadow over here. And I'm just trying to follow maybe a little bit of blue. Maybe a little bit of blue here too, so I will add in a little bit of blue. And then I'm going to add a shadow. Again, cerulean blue might be a perfect mixture for that little bit of a shadow. And then we'll just do the shadow underneath here. And it sort of gets thin here, so the shadow thins out here. Now, the thing I'm going to mention here is when I'm looking at this paint tube here and I'm painting it and drawing it, it's going to look a little different than what you see on the camera, because the camera's over here straight down looking this way. I'm here standing at the table behind everything looking down this way. Can you see that? So I'm looking this way down at my paint tubes like this. The camera here is looking straight down like this. So you're going to see a little bit different than what I'm... So paint what you see in the camera if you have to, or if you want to just follow what I'm doing, that's fine too on my picture here. On my painting here, okay? So I just wanted to kind of make that little bit of a distinction on what I'm doing here. And then we have just a touch of light shadowing over here on the cap of the tube. Okay. Now we're going to come over here. This one will be a little more exciting. We're going to have a real nice pop of red color. Let's do that. This is pretty close to a cadmium red. So I'll take the cadmium red here, put it out, and I'll look at this, and I'm going to look over here and say, yes, there's some red there. There seems to be a highlight there, so I'll leave a little bit of a highlight there. There might be a little bit of some alizarin crimson to make it a little bit darker. Maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. like that to make it a little bit darker. Can you see how that's a little bit darker? The burnt sienna here. All right, so that's what I'm going to put over here, because I can see looking at this here that there's a bit of some shadowing on this side over here, and it does look like burnt sienna. And then I can just blend that in over here like that. You paint over something, no worries. Lift it up with a tissue or a paper towel, and then you can go back in later. Okay, there's a little bit of blue there. I'm going to put that blue in. That's for the metal. There's some metal there. You can lift that up too if you think it's too blue. Just have a little bit of that blue maybe in there with a little bit of red. A little bit more of some shadowing there. And there's some more shadowing over here too on the cap. Like that. Okay. And what else do we have here? Let's see. We have a little bit of highlight there. Let's come over here. We'll do the stripe here on the paint tube there. Okay, it's a little bit thicker than what so my pencil drawing, I made it a little bit thinner. That should be a little thicker of a line there, like so. All right, looking good. All right, so now the best thing we can do now is, since we put in our red paint on our paint tube, the best thing now is to let it set up and dry. And then we can come in and put our shadows on this paint tube, okay? So I just wanted you to see that we have an approach to this, and the approach is, if you've painted some paint onto your tubes of paint here, and you want to go in and do shadows, and those shadows are going to meet up and touch along some of these red sections of paint that we put on, you definitely want to just, let it dry. Don't worry about it. Take a blow dryer, quick blow dry it off if you have to, or if you want, you can let it dry naturally for half an hour, 45 minutes. You come back later. Sometimes you'll time your watercolors. You go and you'll have some errands to do, or you might have a meal to have, and you might cook a meal or something like that, or you might have a show you like to watch on TV. You watch that show, then you come back an hour later or half an hour later. This will be set up and it'll be dry, and then you can do your shadowing. So we'll do our shadowing next. I'll take a quick break. I'm actually going to just take a quick 5 minutes, take a drink of water, and we'll come right back. All right, perfect. I used the blow dryer, dried off some of the damp and moist paint that was on this portion here. Now we can do a little bit of highlighting and shadows, actually. So what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of the blue and red, and that's all I need is the blue and the red for some shadowing. And what I'll do is I'll just do that. Okay. That looks pretty dark over here, actually, so we will just make it the same as we see. Okay. I see a little bit of shadowing here. Over here a little bit. Like that. Like this. And then we're going to have a little bit of a darker shadow even yet. Again, it might look a little different than what it looks like on video, because I'm looking at it from here from back here, looking this way. You're looking down this way, but I do see this shadow right here underneath the tube of paint. I see a large shadow right here, so I am going to paint that in. And then it's very light, actually. There is a bit of a shadow here, but it's super light over here like this. It looks like this. It's super light, and it looks like that. Like this. So I hope that doesn't throw anybody off. But that's what I'm looking at. And that is another fun example of doing some really fun, a couple splashes, doesn't hurt, like that. And we're ready to go on to our next two. Okay, so let's do this. We'll get set here. We'll remove these here, and we'll begin another two. And that should be it. We'll wrap up with two more. And I'm hoping you're having a great time here, because it's really fun. We're practicing lots of different subject matter, diverse subject matter. So this way you're not kind of just practicing one thing. You're practicing multiple different shapes, things you're looking at, different colors, color schemes, different shadows. Everything is kind of changing, and that's good. It'll definitely get your skills moving in the right direction as you want them to. And okay, we'll come right back. We're going to do two more. Maybe I'll just do a quick bit of, we'll finish this here like so. So we have our, and we'll do this one here too as well. We'll just go around and get our, like that. Perfect. Okay, let's get started in just a second with our next pencil drawing. All right, here we go. We're going to do a picture painting composition of this watercolor flat brush. Let's start it out here. So we're going to kind of have it, well, I'll set it up here on the paper so that it's sort of the same as we're going to have it here on this rectangle here, our picture frame here. Okay, so maybe we'll start down here at the point like this. What we'll do is first we'll do a preliminary sketch, which means a very light sketch, just so we kind of can get the feel of where everything's going to kind of lay out. It goes like this. Okay, something like that. That looks pretty good. All right, so I'm happy so far. The preliminary sketch is going well. Let me just make sure I might shorten up something just so that it fits in. Okay, so that's, as an artist, you'll sometimes take artist liberties to maybe shorten things up or lengthen things out so that it can fit into your picture frame the way you want it to. But I'll explain to you in a second what just happened and how I handled it. And this is what I did. All right, now I can see already, I see something that doesn't look great. That's why I do that preliminary sketch, a light sketch, so you can just erase if you have to. But I'll show you why that is too. Like this. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so what I did here is you can, let me do the, all right, now, let's see, let me put this here, and we'll have this here, like this. All right, good. All right, so now I'm going to go with the dark contour drawing. So I'm going to do the contour drawing now. Basically, I just start in one place, and I go around the painting. And then I come up here. Like that. Now, as you can see, this metal part of the brush is smaller because I kind of started out, worked my way up, and then I realized, wow, I'm kind of running out of room up here. So instead of redrawing it, I just took some artist liberty and made this metal ferrule of this brush smaller. So I just kind of crimped it down, made it a little bit smaller. You can do that once in a while. If you were maybe hired by the brush company to create a painting for maybe some kind of advertisement, so let's say you're working in your watercolors and you get hired for a project, you probably wouldn't want to shorten this up. You'd want to make it exactly like you see it and kind of scale it a little better. But we're just having fun here. We're just creating a composition, so you don't have to worry about that. You just look at it and say, okay, I see this here. This metal ferrule is a little bit larger this way, but since I'm running out of room here toward the top of my painting for my brush, I'll just make this a little bit smaller and shrink it down a little bit. And that's all I did. Hopefully, you know what, even as I'm looking at it now, I probably could actually make the ferrule, the metal ferrule here, a little larger, because this portion here, the brush hairs are a little bit, so in actuality I think this might be pretty close to what it needs to be. And then you can just put a couple little lines here for these two small crimps in the ferrule, which is where they have a machine that crimps down the metal so that it tightens up and crushes the brush hairs into that metal so that the brush hairs don't fall out. Alright, so we have that there. Good. Alright, let's take a quick break for just a few seconds. We'll come right back and we'll start painting this. Alright, so we're going to keep going here. Let's get this brush painted in. I see some cadmium red here, maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson and burnt sienna to get myself a nice rich red color. Let's start out with that. Can't hurt. And I just take my hand, rest it on the paper, and then just touch down and get that color on there. As I'm looking at this, I do see maybe a highlight or two of light. And again, let's not forget, let's remember where the light is. We'll make our icon up here, like this. And there we go. We got the red butt end of the brush there. And then we're going to come up here. We'll get some black. This is ivory black. I'll get a touch of water just to activate this a little bit. Okay. And we'll get that black like that. So I'm trying to be careful with my brush strokes here. I leave a little bit of space between the red and the black there maybe. And I'll just press into the paint like this. There's a bit of a highlight there. I'll leave that there. Okay, looking pretty good. Rinse off my brush, take a little bit of water off, maybe a little bit of red here mixed in with the black, maybe even a little bit of cobalt blue. Try to make a little bit of a cooler wash maybe. for the metal. And then for the metal, I'm just noticing that it has some light bouncing off it here and there. So let me just not paint it and fill it all in 100% so you can kind of see how I did that. I didn't really fill it in completely, the metal, like that. There's a bit of a sharp line here, like that I'm seeing. Same thing over here. Bit of a sharp dark there. And like this too. Then I noticed the brush hair is a little bit more brown, so I'll take some of that burnt umber and mix it in with the black. And this way it'll actually be looking exactly like we're looking at it from this point. And then I'll just take my brush and maybe create a little bit of that. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water. Create a little bit of those lines for the hairs of the brush. I think that looks pretty good. Next thing I will do is a couple of splashes like that. And I do see a bit of a shadow, maybe some cerulean blue, like that. And we'll just do the shadow like this. And then that shadow, it is blue. Let's take a little bit of burnt, or that's actually ivory black. And let's add some ivory black to it, maybe even some raw sienna. Like that, for the shadow. And that should be fine. All right, so we're going to move on to the next bit of subject matter. Just one last composition here, and I think we'll have really a good basic, maybe like 8 fun compositions you can do, still life compositions with still life subject matter. And it could be anything. You can take anything that's in your home and just draw and paint it, and that could be fine. If you're going to set up a table with some flowers and a bouquet of flowers, you could put anything in there: cups, saucers, bowls, fruits, vegetables. Again, we use some other things like paint. You could put a paintbrush in there, artist brush. We did a little bit of some different things that we recall. Different, apples, peppers, whatever. So you just kind of, anything you want to draw and paint that you think you might put into a still life painting, especially like a nice floral still life painting on a table, maybe like a kitchen table, dining room table. You can just imagine the possibilities are endless. So have fun, create different things. Start off maybe with some of these and then move on to your own. Maybe you have some things around the house. You'll take them, set them up, draw them, paint them, have a fun time with it. Okay, we're just going to be back. We'll do one more. All right, we're going to finish up with a lemon. So we're going to take this lemon here, set it down into the picture. Again, we'll go with putting the lemon like lower toward the bottom of the painting. We're going to kind of pretend that we have a tabletop here and we have a lemon sitting on top of the table, like so. So that'll be kind of like the starting point. And then I'll just carefully do a preliminary sketch of the lemon just to kind of get it looking like we want to have it to the best of our ability. Okay, and then over here I see the shadow like so. And then we'll have the table up here, so I'm just kind of looking at it like this. Okay. Alright, so I've got my preliminary sketch in there. Now I'll take a darker pencil line and just, you'll see that okay, shadow down here. That's all together. Okay, like that. Perfect. Alright, so this is our lemon. And then now we can see with our lemon the effects of the light. I will notice that the light is, right now we're looking at it sort of like, it's kind of straight over the top here for the most part. So let's go with that. We will empty our water. So my water's looking a little murky. Let me dump that out. Fresh, clean water. And we've been working with our colors on our palette for a little while. Let's clean that up too. Spritzer bottle. I usually go with a half of a piece of paper towel. And then I just hold my palette tight and get in there and just do a quick cleanup. Then this one's going to be pretty simple. The color scheme on this one's going to be really cadmium lemon yellow, like this. And then some cadmium yellow, like that. There's going to be some raw umber too, like this. So that's more the shadow side, the underside of the lemon under here, the raw umber. The shiny, really highlight area of the lemon up here is the cadmium lemon yellow, and the majority of the lemon is the cadmium yellow, like that. Okay, so we're going to rinse off our brush. We'll have a little bit of a tissue in hand just in case we need to check off a little bit of water off of our brush. Alright, I'm going to go in and get some cadmium yellow, which is the, we call this basically the local value of the lemon. It's basically this is the basic color of the lemon. And I'm just going to go in and take my brush and get that basic color there, like so, at the bottom. Even into the shadow a little bit is fine. Okay. Then we have some of the brighter cadmium lemon yellow, the lemony yellow up here. Yep, the light striking it up there, and there's even a little bit of a highlight there on the top of the lemon. Perfect. Then we come back in here and we get some of this darker raw umber, like this. And this is going to be the shadow of the lemon there, like this. And there's even a little bit up there and some here. I rinse off my brush, I dry off the water. I don't want too much water on here now. I want to blend that in. So we blend that in, like so. And then we have a little bit of blue. Let's use some cerulean blue and mix that in with some of that raw umber, like that. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water, pick up some of this, and that's what we want to do. Have a little bit of a, cooler, you can see the blue in there, some cooler shadow effects, like this. Rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and then you can kind of take that blue and raw umber and work it up into the bottom of the lemon. You have to work quickly though on this. That's the one thing about watercolor you'll notice. You'll learn this. If you're going to be mixing colors, mixing and mingling colors and blending things on your paper, on your watercolor paper, you have to work pretty quick. You can't wait too long. So that's the one thing you'll learn. It's just a feel thing. You'll learn it as you go. Don't get frustrated with things. If it doesn't work out in the beginning, you don't have to worry about it. We'll just take some color here that we have in the palette, which was our shadow color here. Some gold. I just want to make this area here behind the table. So this is going to be behind the table. A little more cerulean blue maybe. A couple splashes there. Maybe a couple little swirls. Like this. Okay, that's the back of the table. Like that. A couple of splashes over here. And that is it. We have our lemon. One last thing we can do, of course, a little bit of cerulean blue, a little bit of raw umber and cerulean blue. We can just take a little bit of that and we'll put our bit of our stem on the lemon there. And that is it. I hope you had a fun time. We really enjoyed creating a lot of diverse subject matter, creating these wonderful still life compositions. So we'll see you on the next video. Again, thumbs up if you like this video. Thumbs up if you really thought that this tutorial that we created is going to be working for you and helping you to build your skills as a watercolor artist. And we're going to be here again week after week, month after month, and year after year creating things just like this and even beyond. We're going to be always doing our staple videos, which are, you know, landscapes, seascapes, boat paintings, ocean, beach scenes. We do flower paintings, still life paintings. We do a little bit of figure painting every once in a while. We mix in there. So always remember, we're always changing our subject matter, but we're doing everything watercolor, and we're covering all the basics, the fundamentals of watercolor every time we get together so that you're learning it. And once you learn it, you're going to have it, and you'll do a great job of your watercolors. Okay, so we'll see you soon. All right, everyone, bye for now.